Before we get into this video, have a look there on screen. Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. Now, how would you fancy going to there? How would you fancy going to that fight? How would you fancy VIP passes? How would you fancy flights and accommodation paid? Well, link pinned in the comment section. G-Man link to the zone where you can purchase the Fury fight. You have until the 4th of December. You have till Wednesday to purchase this fight. You get your name put into a draw. And courtesy of the zone, you could be flying out to Saudi Arabia, watching this fight in the VIP in Saudi Arabia, and ain't like VIP anywhere else in the world. You're going to have a good time. So click the link in the comments section. Enjoy the video. Alright people, we are getting ever closer to Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk 2. I'm getting excited. If I wasn't before, seeing that trailer drop the other night, that was I said it wasn't one of my favourites, but it's up there. I really liked it. And those Saudi trailers, they're just something else. Honestly, they are something else. And if that doesn't get you, I tell you now, right, whatever people may say, it gets you hyped. It absolutely does get you hyped for this event. You know, whether it's Usyk Fury, whether it's 5v5, Beterbiev Bivol, seeing those trailers get people hyped. They really do. They're epic. But in terms of talking about this fight, breaking it down, and giving an accurate assessment of what's going to happen in this fight, we need to look at both guys' preparation, because with Alexander Usyk, throughout the course of his career, he is just, many people have said there with Chisora that it's crazy, it's bizarre really how intense he trains, how he lives the life 24/7, 365, and is just, on it 100% of the time. Tyson Fury, on the other hand, isn't so much. He has a tendency to balloon in between fights. I don't have a problem with people going out drinking, certainly not, but if you're trying to win a rematch, if you are trying to perform at optimum, efficiency, it's not going to help you. It just isn't. So with Fury, you look and you think, God, it's quite remarkable, really, that it's not caught up to him worse at the age of 36 than it has, because you could argue, and I certainly wouldn't argue with you on this one, that Tyson Fury, it is kind of funny when you think about it, in an ironic sort of way, the Tyson Fury, living a very hard life, still has more left in the tank than Anthony Joshua, who is, the antithesis in terms of, we never see him out of shape. I don't recall seeing him drunk or anything. I'm sure he probably does drink the odd time, but you get what I mean. It's amazing to think that Fury still probably has more left in the tank. But I think with this camp, it's interesting to see what the preparation is at, because Fury hasn't been looking lighter in image we've seen in this camp. He's been looking heavier. But we've also seen some of his sparring partners, and that really is, I always find it just fascinating who someone's going to spar for a respective fight, because it really does tell you, sometimes it tells you how much perceived danger they view the opponent is, because there are times when you hear people, oh, I'm going to be fighting such and such, or who are you sparring? This guy. You're like, okay, strange, but to each his own. Who's the opponent sparring? World level fighters. You're like, who's got the better preparation there? That does happen, and you do hear it. But with Tyson Fury, some of the sparring partners we know about, I would imagine, now, I don't use Instagram or anything like that anymore, so I don't know if someone like Moses Telma is in camp with Tyson Fury. I know he was in the build-up to the first Alexander Usyk fight. I'm pretty sure he fought on the undercard as well. He's on this undercard, so it wouldn't shock me if he's sparring Tyson Fury. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But I don't know for definite is it him sparring him. But two people we do know are Kevin Arena and Zhan Kossobutskiy. Now, Kevin Lorraine has been in camp with Team Fury before. I think he was with him in the run to the first Alexander Usyk fight, one of many. And Kevin Lorraine as a sparring partner, I actually don't think that's a bad shout for Tyson Fury. He's not as good, nowhere near as good as Alexander Usyk, doesn't hit as hard, doesn't have the same. Kevin Lorraine is an interesting one, because he looks like the sort of fighter who should have good stamina, but he doesn't. He has a tendency to fade very, very quickly in fights. So you might get a good 3-4 rounds out of him in sparring, really good rounds. But probably wouldn't get him for an extended duration. Alexander Usyk's stamina, again, it's a testament to his training, but it's something else. But Zhan Kossobutskiy is an interesting one. I think Zhan Kossobutskiy is quite a bit taller, if I'm not mistaken, than Alexander Usyk. I probably should have had his box rec opened. Now, I know they are both southpaws. I do know that. I know Zhan Kossobutskiy is quite a big puncher. No, actually, I don't know why. For some reason, I thought he was quite a bit taller than Alexander Usyk. 6'3", southpaw. Now, if you've ever seen Kossobutskiy fight, again, he's nowhere near as talented as Alexander Usyk at all. But I can see why Tyson Fury, and don't get me wrong, he's not a bad fighter, Zhan Kossobutskiy. I know he felled himself to a DQ loss against F.A. Ajagba. He was originally meant to fight Jared Anderson. When was he meant to fight Anderson? I think it was July last year. I think that was the fight Anderson ended up having with Charles Martin. It was meant to be Zhan Kossobutskiy. I believe it was visa issues that stopped him from going ahead with that fight. That would have been interesting, because seeing how he struggled with Martin Bakole, I don't know, how would he have done with Zhan Kossobutskiy a year before? It's an interesting one. Kossobutskiy has a tendency when he fights to be a bit like Alexander Usyk, high guard, looking to throw that straight left hand down the pipe. And that was something that Tyson Fury really struggled with. He let Alexander Usyk dictate the pace. He made mistakes by leaving his lead hand out, his jab hand out. That just gave Alexander Usyk free target to stab into the body over and over and over again. And that ultimately took the wind out of Fury's sails, as well as the constant pressure from Alexander Usyk can't have helped, obviously. Someone like Kossobutskiy, he's nowhere near as fast, he's not as coordinated, he probably hits harder, to be fair. Probably does hit harder, but I can see similarities there. And I'm looking at that thinking, if they did 3-4 rounds with Kevin Lerena, switched it over, because that's what they do in sparring a lot of the times. They won't just do, say, 10 rounds with Lerena one day and 10 rounds with Kossobutskiy. They can have a tendency to, switch the spars around. That's why you often hear fighters, when they do get hurt in sparring, you need to know kind of the full context. Has a sparring partner come in fresh for the 5th round, not boxed a minute, and opponent who you're sparring and maybe dropping has sparred 4 rounds, set a good pace against this guy, and here comes this guy fresh. You always need to kind of look at that one. But I think that Kossobutskiy and Kevin Lerena, that's an interesting combination of sparring partners. And actually, that's quite good for Tyson Fury, I think. I always find it so interesting hearing who they're sparring in preparation for their respective fights. Alexander Usyk's sparring partners, we didn't hear much about them in the run to the first fight, in the sense of, you were looking at their box rec and you were like, who is this? But they obviously did a very, very good job. I remember when Alexander Povetkin was fighting Anthony Joshua, I think Filip Hrgovic might have been in there, but I know Dubois was, and I know there was pictures circulating around at the time, which was showing Povetkin and Dubois, shoulder to shoulder after a spar, and Povetkin looked like he'd not got the better of it, but then you realise, actually this is a group photo, so God knows, Povetkin could have sparred every one of them that day, so God knows who left them with the shiners. But I do enjoy seeing who they're sparring, and it stood Povetkin. He didn't win the fight, but it stood him in good stead because he looked very good against Anthony Joshua early on. That was the best Anthony Joshua probably ever looked in his whole career, was against Povetkin. It's probably the best he ever looked. It's like, I always say, the best Triple G ever looked was against Devin Lemieux. You never seen him look as good as that. It's not that say he dropped off dramatically, but you know what I mean. So sparring partners are important. I like these sparring partners for Fury. Get some rounds in with a Telma. The best sparring partner Fury could have ever got in preparation for Usyk would have been Jay Opetaia. That's not going to happen. Opetaia has his own fight to deal with in early January. That's going to happen in Australia. He's got to base himself in Australia. He's not going to fight. He's not going to fly. I don't know. Earlier this year, there was that whole, he was in Team Fury for sparring, then he was gone, and there was this, and it was kind of like, right, what's going on here? I can't imagine that's going to happen again, and this time around it makes no sense, because again, he's fighting a fortnight after Tyson Fury. There's no point going to Saudi Arabia, because there would be a time difference between there and Australia, quite a severe one, if I'm not mistaken, wouldn't it? Or is it not too bad? But either way, it's a long trip, time difference, jet lag, No, it makes no sense. If he was on the same card, if he was fighting on the undercard, I'd say, yeah, it makes perfect sense to spar Tyson Fury. But this time it doesn't. So that's the best sparring partner I could think of. But for a variety of reasons, and I understand it completely, it ain't going to happen. But let me know your thoughts. Fury sparring Zhan Kossobutskiy. Let me know. What do you think? Good move, bad move? Do you think that it doesn't matter who he spars? he could spar a replica of Alexander Usyk. He ain't beating him. Let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, people, if you haven't already. And until next time, lads, peace.